Hello everyone and welcome to another special new episode of the StudioMEcast. Today in the studio I have Stephanie Swift as my guest. She is an actor, marketer, and director, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of things she's got going on. But right now, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very much looking forward to this. It's my first foray here into the studio with you, and hopefully not the last. And it's, you know, the end of the year almost, and it's hard to believe that we're into November. But I think we're going to have some great chat today, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, welcome to StudioME, and it's great to have you in person here for all this. And we've known each other for a while, you know, just kind of a bunch of the same screenings, know a lot of the same people and all that. But I got to see the short that you co-directed with Zane for the horror sci-fi Pittsburgh 48-hour film project, Iniquitous. And I understand that was your first foray into directing a film, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So you've focused on acting up to this point, and you continue to.
Yes.
You know, I'm jumping ahead a bit in your story, but what was it like going from acting to directing?
It's an interesting transition, and one I have to say that maybe has been in play for a few years leading up to this point. I had always thought entering the film industry, we'll say in like 2016-ish. In fact, the first short that I did was with a gentleman. It turned into a feature, I guess. I shouldn't say short, but it was with a gentleman by the name of Lou D'Ambrosio, and it was called The Painted. And Rick Dutro, my husband, was already involved with it as the secondary. I'm trying to remember the name of his character, but anyways, he was the father in this particular one, The Painted, and they had needed an additional role filled that was a smaller role on screen that was the mother of the villain. And not to give too much away, but it was a terrifying, terrible, horrendous, evil woman that they needed to fill this role. And I thought, I'd probably have that in me if I had to, you know, necessarily delve into that piece. But what I said to Rick was, do I have to, you know, literally go into this as it's an audition, or like what's the kind of thing that he's going for? And he said, as long as you can do what he's looking for with this like Kathy Bates type character in like a first time meeting, then you have the part basically. So I went in there. I remember thinking, I'm in theater, like how's this going to go? And our first meeting went great. And Rick was already in the production. I didn't want them to feel like pressured to put me in there, but as soon as I started talking with him, it was just a great fit. And watching my first time on screen, I thought maybe I would have directed myself differently, if that makes sense. So almost from that perspective, I've looked at every single film project I've done from, if I were on the other side of the camera, what would I have done with my performance, or what would I have done with the performance that I had then done for others differently.
And it's interesting because a lot of actors, I think, who go into directing will sometimes act in the thing they're directing. You know, not always, but it's not unheard of. But for this short, Iniquitous, you were strictly behind the camera for it, and you had a co-director as well.
Well, actually, one thing was on the camera, twice, my hand. So
that was you. Okay, so there we go.
My hand, wow, you know,
Right.
I had to paint that thing black.
Acting, yeah.
And then I was trying to, as directing, then we got to that part of the script, and I thought, I can't touch anything. I can't touch the script. I can't touch it. I have this black paint on my hand, this nasty paint, and sort of on my fingernails, and I have to wrap it around the door. And it's midnight or some late time. We'd been filming since, I believe, 9 a.m. And I thought, okay, actually, I don't care if I get it on the house anywhere. I'll just clean it. Like, you know, I'll just leave the house clean. I just went for it, and then I said, okay, John Gwinnane, who was the director of photography, can we just do this part real fast so I can get back to it? And he said, oh, we have to redo it again. I think we did it 5 or 6 times.
Oh, like, really?
Both outside, just because of the timing of everything. That's a particular shot where you have to be able to move from spot to spot. He almost did like a semicircle with the camera work. So I had to do the hand at a very specific time. And I kept, either the door would get jammed, or like I'd open it and then I'd put my hand over there and he'd say slower or faster. And then the basement one, 4 or 5 takes at least. So trust me, as soon as I was done, I washed my hand off or wiped it off and then got back to what I had to do. So my hand,
of acting for
I actually,
short, you know.
I washed my hands of the acting side of it. We'll
That's
say.
funny.
The proverbial wash the hands.
Did you find it to be a artistically enriching experience or fulfilling to direct?
It became much more enriching than I even anticipated, because the biggest part of it that I thought would be my challenge going into it was finding the happy medium between being too much of an actor's director, but looking at it from a holistic point of view. Because Zane had a very specific vision of visually what it would look like, and I was on board for that with that from the beginning, which was a shining, almost Clockwork Orange vibe to Get Out. Also being in the house and just stylistically, lighting-wise, all of that. So those 3 elements were sort of already going to be the norm. But then once we got shooting, I wasn't even looking at it from, does this shot look this way? Because I wasn't thinking the camera aspect of it so much as what are the actors thinking or doing in that moment. And I don't know if he shared that the lead character, which was, Nazir is his name, it was really his first time on camera. He's a theater actor. So for him to go from that to the first time, I thought of what I went through that first time in The Painted, and I had a bunch of takes that I could do, or really we did it as a continuous shot. It's about 1.5 minutes for my first time on camera. But this guy, he has to be the whole film from beginning to end. What is it, 7 minutes maximum? And 16 hours of shooting, I believe. So he has to go from, hey, I've never done this before, to now I'm an expert, and by the end of the shoot, he was super comfortable, and the final 1.5 minutes is so strong just because he eased his way into it. But we had conversations, both Zane and I, with both him and Marlo. Rick so much with the acting side. I try to direct him all the time, but you know how that goes. I mean, when you're married to somebody, when you've acted so much together. I think this was our 25th project together.
Oh, wow.
26th project together.
Congratulations.
Not that I'm counting.
That's awesome.
Whether it be I've stage managed with him. He's also directed me at Apple Hill Playhouse when Apple Hill Playhouse was around. So I've had that. We've had sort of both sides of the camera, or even the stage, behind the scenes and on the stage together, and also separate in different roles.
That's really cool that you have that experience that you've also been able to share with someone so much. That's got to be great.
And with self-tapes, it helps a lot. Now that self-tapes are the norm, oh my gosh, he will do a self-tape, or I will, and we will both watch a couple takes and we'll say, that's not none of those are the one. Neither of those 2 that you like are going to work either. So we may differ in that, but we do have a pretty, I'd say, consistent vision on what we both think is upper echelon or good quality. We both kind of have that same
sensibilities.
Standard. And he's on a professional level now. I mean, he's part of the union. He's been SAG since, I think, 2021 or beginning of 2022 with American Rust, when he was on as a recurring character in season 1. So he was able to join, and then he'll be a part of the Actors Equity Association.
Oh, excellent.
In March of 2024.
Excellent. That's wonderful news.
And we both just did plays, which was really different because both of us were in different plays at the exact same time, same opening weekends.
Wow, that must have been also like...
I think I need to have a drink. I mean, of water.
That had to be a lot. That's, because, wow, it sounds like you both support each other a lot as well, but when you're both doing 2 different productions, I imagine that made it much more difficult.
You can't be in the same place at the same time.
Right.
And I think his biggest challenge with that was going from, he had done a show in the summertime from the perspective of the same theater where I performed The Haunting of Hill House. It's Carnegie Stage, but he was performing with Throughline Theater in Uncle Vanya, and he hadn't been on the stage, just like myself, for I think he was 4.5 years and I was 5 years.
Oh, wow.
To the day,
so
stepping back onto a stage.
Quite a break.
Yeah.
Then. Wow. And that's a totally different experience being on stage versus being on set. You know,
audience, you have the dynamic of what could and will happen may. For instance, in the middle of one of the matinees that we had at the theater at Carnegie, a cell phone went off twice, and it was a blaring alarm, yes, on someone's phone in the second row, and it's a very intimate space, and it just progressively got louder, and it went off twice in a row, and I was thrown for a loop. I mean, I will totally own up to it. I just couldn't. I tried to sort of zone it out in a way, but I'm also in the zone of performing, and the sound of it just was sort of a distraction. And so I got back into it, but with a little bit of a flub in terms of where we were in the script. Kind of went forward a little bit, but we came back to it.
And the fact it went off twice, it's like they didn't silence it.
I know. And it was an older gentleman, and I didn't, in Broadway or on Broadway, they will call you out. Like, let's say you're in the middle of a very intimate, small setting, or even where the actors can hear you, these professional actors that are out there, they will just outright put it into their, their spiel or their shtick, and they will just call the person out.
Yeah, it's like, it's ridiculous. I mean, I saw people who keep their phones on at a movie theater or a stage production, or who don't return their card at the grocery store, or don't know what they're going to order after they've been in line for a long time and it's their turn. You know, that's where I see the breakdown in society, actually, is that.
Or when somebody, how about when you look out there during a live performance or even during a movie and someone's actively texting.
Yeah, or taking video of. I don't mean like a big concert. That's totally different. I get it. People
pull
their lighters out, whatever. But it's like if I go see something in IMAX, like I'll take a day off to go see a movie, or like a half day or something. You know, I'll figure something out to go see a film that I don't want to have interrupted. Like I went to see Killers of the Flower Moon. Right.
And, oh my gosh, I've heard so much fantastic stuff about that. Was it great?
I mean, it's Scorsese, you know. It's get on another tangent here, like as I start to complain about phones again. Like I'll try to go to screenings at a time when it's less likely that people are going to be there.
So you try to go when there's no audience.
Yeah, well, it depends on the film, I guess. Definitely, because sometimes you want an audience there. Like when I saw Django. When that came out, that was like some of the most fun ever. It was packed. It was like a spectator sport. It was a blast.
Yeah.
But if I'm watching Oppenheimer in IMAX or 70 millimeter, I've been like waiting for this for a long time, and there's a guy back there chatting with his girlfriend through Yeah, it's like I do tell people to shut up in movies. Like
there's nothing wrong.
I mean,
with
I
that.
say it politely, but
there should be an unsaid, unspoken rule in the theater too. When I hear people talking and you can audibly hear them,
the place is built for acoustics, and it's not unspoken. It's before movies. They have a whole spiel that gets longer and longer every time. People like, turn off your phones, don't talk, be quiet, and it gets longer and longer and more produced every time. And it's like people still do it because they they're selfish, but whatever. And the Killers of the Flower Moon, it's I have this weird thing that I'll confess with great movies, which is when I see a movie that's like on another level, the first time I watch it, a lot of the time, I don't totally get it. And I was familiar with the history of it. Like I learned about the Osage and the whole oil thing when I was in Boy Scouts, but like with Scorsese's films, actually, a lot of the time when I watch them initially, I don't totally get it. I might even be like, all right, well, what's going on here? And then, but I'll think about it continuously for weeks after that. Like it'll just be, I'm not trying to, it's just these scenes
I felt that way
haunt
about,
me and,
what was the one, is it Tenet? Tenet?
Tenet, yeah, Christopher Nolan's movie.
Yeah, 3 times maybe.
Yeah.
I still don't know what happened. No, I mean the backwards. Yeah, but thinking about the complexity of something like that, and maybe even like an Oppenheimer or something, starting out in directing, you almost have to give yourself some grace or give yourself a little bit of love when it comes to moments like that, because what I found in the edit that was most gratifying, though, was taking those shots that I knew and that Zane Allen also knew were the strongest ones, and having him put, I'm trying to think of, Nick Verzilli. It was just a little brain fart there, but Nick, he does that for a living. I mean, he's an editor, he's fantastic, but he took that, and the moments that we told him that had to be in there, he made sure were there. But then you might find you want a millisecond more or something, or you want it to linger a little bit more, so you hope that when you were shooting that those extra seconds were there, and they were. And I think that's what made the film ultimately very strong, was the fact that we had those couple of seconds to hold on to a shot. And maybe when I would direct next, I would make sure, because I've been in films where I was told, well, we cut right after the line ended, and there were continuations that couldn't be in the final edit because they weren't captured on camera. So cutting prematurely, you can always have more, but you can never have less because you never captured it.
Yeah, I think almost every video project, like any film, has at least one shot in it that was from before the director said action or after they said cut.
I agree.
Like, there's a music video that I just directed that's being released this week, and there's a moment in it that is awesome. But it was while we were kind of like getting things going, you know,
rolling.
Like
when you're getting them rolling.
Yeah, things rolling. But like, you know, we have some like sort of like different elements in camera, you know, that we're kind of start that. Okay, now begin. You know, but while things were like going, you know, starting to appear, I was like, this is real. Like as I was editing, I ended up. It's just like it's the second or two.
What genre of music video is it?
It's actually a bagpiper.
What?
Well, Allie the Piper, not my Allie, my wife Allie, but Allie the Piper. She's a professional bagpiper. She does compete, and
that's pretty neat.
But she does like a lot of stuff on Instagram and TikTok. She plays with a few bands, like a couple of pipe bands. There's a rock band she's in, and there's. The music video that I've directed is her cover of Crazy Train.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I mean, I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's really phenomenal. But she's great. She's like really kind of done the whole American dream, being a musician, where she did her thing on Instagram and TikTok and grew a following, and she books and sells out her tours now.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so...
I like a good bagpiper. I really do.
Oh, good.
In fact,
well, I am one myself.
I didn't know that. And I went to Chatham College, and I would go to Carnegie Mellon, and I took a couple classes there. I took a ballroom dancing one, which was kind of fun. I took a, it wasn't technically a film class, but I took sort of this, they had an elective. It was a little mini camp. And at the time, I had not had interest in film. I had only had interest in theater, which I was a major. I did communications and theater at Chatham, and I went over to CMU, and it was a different level. But I remember always thinking, when I was in their quad area, I hope that while I'm here, there will be bagpiping, and if there is, then my day is better already, just because it was so fulfilling and just real. If I could ever go to a place other than where we are right now in Pittsburgh, I would say, and I've never been, Scotland or Ireland or that area of the world would be where my life would be calling me without ever even stepping foot
Well, that's great, because my dad was actually the first person to graduate from CMU's bagpipe program.
What?
Yeah, he's the first person ever from that, and
That's
he's the reason.
really amazing.
Yeah, he's really the reason why that program exists at all. Like, it's been, because I was a kid when this happened, but he was like, the program was basically built for him, and he was the person to be sort of, I guess, I don't want to say guinea pig, but the person who was put through to see, like, can the bagpipe be classified as a classical instrument, basically? And the program is still there. So what does that tell you,
that
audience?
tells you.
Anyway, there's, but yeah, it's
a raving success.
Yeah, honestly. And then he got his master's at IUP, and he got his PhD at Durham University. So. And he taught at Edinburgh for a while, but yeah, he played the bagpipes. He learned from his dad. I learned from him, you know. My brother's a professional bagpiper. There were bagpipes at my wedding, you know, and all that stuff.
I did see that.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
That's
so I'm all
neat.
in it. I have been to Scotland. It's lovely. You should go sometime.
Oh, I hear just the scenery, the people. It's like Ireland in terms of the greenery, and the hospitality, I've heard, is fantastic. And I like myself a good scotch. I won't lie about that. I do enjoy that. And I think for me, some of the movie sites that I could go to, for instance, geez, I mean, who the heck wouldn't want to go to any of the Braveheart sites? Did you do
I didn't do any movie tours. I was there with the bagpipe band, actually, which was the first American bagpipe band in our grade level to get into the World Pipe Band Championships. So, representing the USA, that was fun. And
and I play the violin, but you don't want to hear it anytime.
Oh, all right.
Anytime in the near future and or now, because it's been quite some time.
Well, it's good to, I think, to you know, be a musician and to play a musical instrument, even if it's not your focus. Like my dad and brother, that's their main thing. My main thing is film and video, right?
Yeah.
But I play, and you know, not as often as I probably should, but I do, and I can.
I think it'd be really neat to direct a music video. In fact, I've never considered that would be something that, with a musical background, that's really my background. Growing up,
you should
in Butler, I started out in musicals, and that's all I did. I was in Peter Pan, I was in Oliver, I was in The King and I.
Who were you in The King and I?
I was just, okay, so Butler High School, I graduated with around 850. It might be a little lower than that, but it was a lot of people. And the musicals for Butler High School would be 150.
Wow.
Well, 125. Possibly. But on a stage, you'd have people in the rows. So they had a lot of, you know, between 7th grade and seniors, they had a lot of people involved. And it was really competitive in terms of that. So I basically didn't spend a lot of time as a lead or even as a secondary character. But I also auditioned for places like Musical Theater Guild in Butler, where I got my first role as Charlotte in Oliver. And I had to have an accent like this and act like a brat. And then I had to throw some water on the character at the time. And it was really funny. There's like a still photo of me throwing the water onto Robin Criley's face. Maybe it wasn't Robin Criley. I should not say names because if my memory isn't that great. But so I threw the water on there, and then I'm going like this, and she's going the same. So we both have the same expression, and that's one of my favorite moments. And I also was one of the bar wenches in that. So we did the papa.
That's how
so we had that goes.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the director for Haunting of Hill House, you know, Kismet, they say it happens. He is originally somebody that I knew from Musical Theater Guild in Butler.
Oh, wow.
So he still lives in Butler, and he was the director along with Thomas, who was the assistant director for Stage Warp. So he, 30 plus years later, directed me in something, which was an interesting, like I said, moment of, it's almost like, oh, wow, some dual universe here where we had to meet up again, like in a different capacity, but still. at auditions, I couldn't believe he was there and that I got cast as the role of Mrs. Montague.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it was like a weird moment. And I said, well, this isn't a musical, so we don't have musical moments, but I'm sure we could find a few. And I don't know if you'd want to hear what Mrs. Montague would do for her musical moments, but it wouldn't be very nice because she was more of a Miranda from Devil Wears Prada meets a Karen, a modern-day Karen, a total bitch. So she was the part, and it's fun to play a bitch. I really don't get the opportunity to be a villain or a bitch.
It must be
very
freeing,
often.
is it?
It is, because you don't realize if you're not that way, if your nature isn't that way. And trust me, I'm being honest here. That's not my real nature. But if it's not, then you get to just have so much fun with it and freedom. And again, from a director's perspective, I would love to delve into a character like that from the other perspective of, hey, I'm looking at this and I want you to come across as nuanced and terrifying or whatever else you need to. But maybe even you're just a quiet, under-the-radar villain that all of a sudden shows your true colors. And how can we make that evident based on what we have in the script? And how can we play that up or even subdue certain parts? And that was the hardest transition from theater, which is huge sometimes, or big in a space, depending on, I hope this doesn't blow your mic out, to very subtle. Hi, the camera's here, and now I'm going to see you blinking, or I'm going to see you furrow your brow. On the stage, you don't necessarily get that. It's not under the same microscope or the same sort of discerning eye that you would have on camera. And that can be terrifying, and it can be great too, depending on what you do with it.
And with film, you have an editor, and in stage, the audience is the editor, and there's plenty of performances that have been left on the cutting room floor, but it's also largely the editor's job to make sure that they don't have you on screen when you're doing something you shouldn't be doing.
Really.
It's like, so there's, it's just that different trade-off that you have with the two mediums. I think it was Michael Caine who said films are made and plays are performed, or something like that.
I would believe that.
Yeah,
and it's an honest-to-God truth. And the difference, too, that I found is when you go and you have an experience in a movie theater versus you go to see a play or a musical with an audience, is that having live human interaction, whether it be passively watching or whether it be, sometimes they break the fourth wall and they're talking directly to the audience. And when you have that on film, it can be interesting to watch all of a sudden the character go into that facing the camera, as I'm doing right now. I am breaking the fourth wall. But what is great is when it's effective, either way, whether it be we're completely separated from it, it makes it something that is as if the audience is still involved, even if they're not on the stage with you or on the screen with you. And the number one rule that I like to follow is be true to whoever your audience is and know your audience. In The Haunting of Hill House, I knew that my audience was all of Hill House, because when she enters a room, she commands it. She demands everyone to pay attention to her and to listen. And sometimes when you're a more introspective character, even in a film, that's not what you want. You want them to look at you through the lens, but to feel that separation and to maybe feel that isolation that the character feels. So you have to know what you're trying to accomplish to be effective.
Yeah, and it can be really difficult also when you're a member of, maybe a sizable cast, and you've got what you're trying to do and the other actors have what they're trying to do, in which case it's the director's job to make sure everyone's kind of on the same page, and all that.
It's not just giving people blocking. And that's the difference between a very effective director and a director that's maybe just getting started. And that takes time. It takes experience. I mean, my only other directing foray, well, twice, was in college. I directed, and it was part of my major, I directed the show by Christopher Durang. It's called The Actor's Nightmare. And the story is about an accountant or a financial advisor who is thrown into a play because he is having a nightmare where he is just put into the lead character of 4 different plays that he's sort of familiar with. He doesn't know his lines, but everybody on that stage, and it's terrifying. If you've never seen it, it's a great read. It's a great script. It's a great play. And when done well, it's funny. And there's the moments, the nuances that you have to capture of his being so uncomfortable and being so unsure about what he's doing, but everyone else egging him on, like, you have to go out on the stage. You're the lead. What are you doing here? And they don't understand why he doesn't know his lines or why he doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing with his blocking. But directing that was really a treat for me because it was a small cast. It was a cast of 5. And as I said, you cover the 4 different plays, Absurdist, or you have a Noel Coward play. In the very end, there's a, I think it's Chaucer, a throwback at the
like
very
Canterbury
end.
Tales.
Yeah, something like that. But it's also a bad part of the story where there's a beheading and some other things that the character doesn't know what to do. And the absurdity of it all is what makes it effective. But I remember thinking, well, what kind of song do I want to play in the beginning of a play that is really about chaos? And I picked REM's End of the World as We Know It. And when we recorded it on VHS, I have it from 1990. No, it was 2000 when we recorded that. I remember thinking, this was great because that opened it up and that closed the show. And we got a standing ovation. I mean, we pulled it off, and that was my first time directing. I was in a black box space, a very small venue at Chatham, which was on 4 sides. So you came out in the middle and, you have the box. And the blocking was very effective, and everything that happened on that stage got the goal of entertaining and telling a story.
That's excellent.
So it happened. And then about 20-ish years later, I was an assistant director for The 39 Steps, which is a fun...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, have you ever seen it?
I've read it, and I've read the original story, and I've seen the Alfred Hitchcock film.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen the play.
The play is great, too. It follows along. It's pretty true to the movie and to the script, but when you watch it, it's a small cast of characters. You have, I think, 4 total, and then there's some dual roles that are played. But it's a really great, I will call it not a farce per se, but it definitely has nuances of being a farce. And it has also the Alfred Hitchcock vibe, but when done well, it's highly entertaining too, and I think that we pulled it off at McKeesport, so I did that there. And then I sort of directed, we'll say, a small piece that I just did called Paths to the Abyss, where I was both acting in it with Andrew Nesky, another actor friend of mine, and I wrote it, directed it, and did some of the camera work when it was a 2-person project, so he and I would switch off on it. And then the editing part, editing is so tedious. I don't know how people can do it and keep their sanity, I think.
Real quick, here at StudioME, we do provide editing services, visual effects, color, sound mixing, whatever you want. If you give us enough of a heads up, we can do it. So stop on by to StudioME in East Liberty. We'd love to talk with you about your project.
I'm only ever gonna... Yes. You're like, listen, no, you guys do great work. You really do.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, let me jump in here and say, so we've got a lot of, we've reminisced quite a bit, but I know you have a bunch of stuff that's coming up as well. There's some cool events and things. Why don't you tell us about what's to come?
Sure. So this week on Sunday, which I believe is the 21st, I hope.
Hang on. 19. I think it's the 20th.
20th, okay. 20th, we have Kaylee Fitzgerald.
Oh, wait, 19th. I don't know. Doesn't matter. This Sunday, guys.
This Sunday.
What's up?
See, I don't know dates. This Sunday at 6:30 at the Strand in Zelienople is the world premiere of 2 episodes of Swipe by Kaylee Fitzgerald. It's Bokeh Productions, Bokeh, and not only is she showing those 2 episodes at the Strand, but she's also showing 2 proof of concept trailers that I was part of, both of the trailers as well. But the one that I was heavily involved in, it's called Scope. And I play, her name is Aunt Carr, or Carr is the character, and she's a cop. And Jordan Belts plays my niece.
Oh,
and
good.
so she's in it as well. And she's in Swipe, and I play a character in that as well called Karen. And that's what I am, is a Karen.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a small role in that. And then the other one is called, oh my gosh, it's with Delaney and Celine Phillips, and I'm trying to think who else is in it. There's Evan Wormold, and it's oh my gosh, I cannot believe I cannot think of this name.
You're rattling off a ton of names right now. It's okay. So,
oh my gosh.
But you've also
it'll probably come back to me.
But isn't there another
work-life balance?
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So see, I don't have a very good work-life balance. I couldn't think of the title. Yeah, that's really bad.
So, and then there's an event coming up in December as well, I believe.
Yeah, with 3BT Productions and Iniquitous, the 48-hour film project, will be shown at that. So we have Iniquitous, we have My Day with Parker, which is another short. We have Together, and then there is one, it's the preview of the feature film MAXX, which is called MAXX, Son of the Damned, and I play Juliet. I play a, we'll say, nice character that is involved in Max's life pretty heavily, and got to play that part in this year, and then it will continue next year when we finish it up. But that is going to be at the Lindsay Theater, and that one is December 2nd, which is a Saturday, so I do know the actual date for that one, December 2nd, Saturday at 5:30, and tickets are $20, and you get all of that, plus there's some door prizes and some other things. And the tickets for the Swipe thing are only $5.
Oh,
so
come
that's
on,
a deal.
everybody.
So we should fill that
Enjoy
theater
a
up.
night out.
And it's a Sunday.
A day
who
out.
doesn't want to go on a Sunday, around 6:30? It's going to be a
evening,
nice time in Zillionople. I love that theater too. I've been there a few times, and also the Lindsay's very nice too.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I think. Oh man, we've covered so much so quickly. I'd love to have you on again, actually.
Yeah.
So as you said at the beginning, hopefully not the last time.
Have you
It's
ever
like-
had couples on?
For the 48-hour sci-fi horror series that we did here at StudioME was we did have a lot of pairs show up. I actually liked it. I wasn't sure how I'd go with the format of having 2 guests, but I liked it quite a bit.
Okay.
But yeah, if you're thinking about you and Rick,
Rick, yeah.
perhaps coming on, that would be great. Yeah, that'd be excellent.
And as I said too, I'm looking forward to this upcoming year for some new opportunities with either acting, hopefully very much so directing, and anything else. And I love also helping other artists and with marketing, and I do all the marketing for Rick and myself, and whether it be real estate business, also to any of the acting stuff we do, because he doesn't like to do any of that kind of stuff. We each have our strengths, and mine is networking and sort of promoting projects, and I do that for both of us.
Oh, well, that's
So
excellent.
basically, I'm the person that gets the info out there, so hopefully people show up. So please show up to the
Come on,
the
everybody.
Swipe and the
Enjoy
Scope and
independent
work-life balance
film
plus
and stuff like that in
Iniquitous
Pittsburgh.
together.
Yeah. And if you want to learn more about Iniquitous leading up to it, we also had an interview that I did with Zane and Delaney, and you can find that on our channel. But yeah, so well, that's excellent. It's really exciting to get to know more about you, hear about even more stuff that you've done, and also it's great to always hear that you've got stuff coming up as well. I'm sure there will be much more to come as time goes by, and by the time we have you and Rick on here together, I'm sure we'll have many more awesome announcements and stuff to talk about.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and whether it's to promote a specific project or just to have a nice chat, it'll be nice to have you back.
And I'm hoping maybe at some point to learn some bagpipes.
I know some good teachers,
into.
so yeah, as my dad and my brother both teach. So
that's pretty neat.
Yeah, and my brother actually, I believe he still teaches like via Zoom and Skype and stuff like that. So if you are pretty much anywhere in the world and you want to learn how to play bagpipes, just, reach out to me or at Studio. Leave a comment. I'll probably see it, and we'll figure something out.
And if you're involved in a film and you don't want to edit it and you don't want to colorize it and you don't want to go through the tedious, tough part of it, which is the finish line. I mean, the final edit's what everybody sees. So if you have a strong team at StudioME doing that for you, your film's only going to be great. That's how I feel.
Well, that's, I think editing is such a rewarding part of the process because you get to tell the story again. You get to find out that, oh, we did get at least some of the stuff we were going for, and, there's a lot of problem solving, or problem inventing, who knows, but it's, whenever I'm directing, I typically like to at least I like to have an editor, even though I'm comfortable as an editor, I like to have an editor, at the very least an assistant editor, just like, I like to have another person there typically while the cut's happening. I get a lot of feedback from the stuff I
And the 48's a very stressful way to also be introduced to directing, so I was grateful that it was not just me, it was Zane as well, but that I think next time that it would be more of an exercise of being beyond organized, and so that whatever challenges you come up against, including, hey, it's been dark for 6 hours, how do we create all of the lighting that we need to make it still appear like it's daylight?
I heard about that story.
A lot of challenges with that, but I think now having that experience under my belt that it wouldn't happen again. That
something else will happen, but
but again, to sort of already be in prepared mode for whatever might happen. But I think with the great actors that we had and the great final product, that I couldn't have been happier with the first experience and that side really of directing.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that it was a positive experience, and
I'm still tired from it. No,
a
month and a half later, I'm still
I hear that. Yeah.
It might be the play too. I don't know. We just got done with that, over the weekend.
Well, you're keeping busy, which is good.
I'm trying. Keeps me out of trouble.
Yeah,
so, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I had a great time talking to you.
Me too.
And looking forward to the next time.
Absolutely. Cool. All right, everybody. You know the deal. Thanks for watching. And, I need to start saying this. It'd be really cool if you subscribed. You don't have to. Subscribe. But, it'd be cool. If you're watching this, if you got this far, probably enjoyed some of it. So just...
I don't know if I'm going to put the link down at the bottom, but I'm pointing to the bottom. It's going to appear, so make it happen.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.